Level 1. The first contact. You are 10 years old and you are standing on a dock that smells like salt, old rope, and decisions that will haunt you for the rest of your life. It is a normal afternoon, normal in the worst possible way. At the end of the pier, a guy in a straw hat is eating a piece of meat the size of your head and laughing at nothing. A man in a suit with a rifle is standing in the corner, like he is also standing in every corner everywhere all the time. Someone is selling something from a cart that may or may not be legal in any country. A seagull lands directly on your shoulder and stares at you like it knows your credit score. You are just a kid. You are just watching. And then the straw hat guy looks at you. Not at the dock, not at the sea, not at the suspiciously large piece of meat. He looks directly at you, grins like the sun came out from behind a cloud specifically for this moment, and says, "You want to be a pirate?" You do not answer, but something in you leans forward. That is the first sign. That lean. That is how it starts. Not with a cannon, not with a treasure map, not with a speech. Just a grin aimed at the right person at the right time. And the sea, enormous and blue and arranged for maximum emotional impact, opens up in front of you like a question you are not yet old enough to answer, but you will be. Level 2. The choice. Now you are older. Not much, but enough to understand how the harbor works. You know who gives orders around here. You know which Marines look the other way and which ones actually mean it. You know the difference between a pirate who talks big and a pirate who has already crossed the Grand Line and come back with a scar that has a story behind it. Your best friend from the dock changed. He used to race you to the end of the pier. Now he walks slower, talks less, and shows up with things he did not have before and cannot explain. In this world, everyone wants a way out. Some talk about treasure, some talk about joining a crew, some just learn to stay small and survive. You choose something else. While everyone around you is chasing the fastest route, you keep thinking about that grin, that absurd, unearned, cosmically confident grin aimed at a kid standing on a dock going nowhere. Then your friend disappears. A few days later, nobody talks about it. They just lower their voices, change the subject, close the door a little faster at night. You understand the message. If you do not choose your path right now, the sea chooses it for you. And the sea does not ask what you want. It just takes. This is where the decision is born. You are going to find that crew. And one day, you are going to sail with them. Level 3. The dream. Now you are a teenager, and the idea has stopped being a fantasy. It has a shape. It has a direction. You start training with what you have. You run when the docks are still empty. You practice with broken oars. You study old maps that are probably wrong about at least 4 islands. You go to sleep, tired, and wake up more tired, and train again anyway. People laugh. Of course they laugh. Someone from this port does not end up on a crew like that. Someone from this background does not get to stand next to the people who actually matter. Someone like you does not get the adventure. You keep going. What pushes you is not inspiration. It is memory, a grin, a question, a lean forward that your body did before your brain had anything to say about it. You pass the first real test. The dream earns a name, a direction, and a sail. Level 4. The crew. You are young and you have just joined. Your captain wears a hat that should not be intimidating and somehow is the most intimidating thing you have ever seen. Your crewmates include a man who fights with 3 swords held in positions that violate several physical laws, a girl who steals things including the narrative, a man whose nose could file taxes, a coward who is braver than he thinks, and a chef who kicks so hard the ocean apologizes. Your first paycheck in terms of survival is exactly this. Not dying during the first island. It seems like enough. You think, okay, this is fine. This is a start. The sea answers fast. You work armed without knowing how the day ends. You solve problem after problem. You beat someone and watch the next version of them show up 2 islands later with a different hat. You hold a situation together for hours, and the next morning it looks like nothing changed. It is during this phase that the weight of it arrives. Not the fighting, the responsibility. Because on this crew, one mistake is not just your mistake. It belongs to everyone standing next to you. You start sleeping lighter. You start noticing things you did not notice before. a ship on the horizon that turns too early, a port that goes quiet wrong, a smile that does not reach the eyes. The crew gave you presence. The sea charges you in damage. And you start to understand that joining was not the destination. It was just the beginning of something longer. Level 5, the rot. Now you are experienced enough to lose your innocence. The problem is not only out there on the sea. There are Marines who join to do good and quietly disappear from the front line. One gets transferred to a desk. Another takes an early retirement nobody asked about. Another stops showing up to things and no one explains why. The ones who try to fight the system from inside get slowly erased. What remains learns to live with the shortcut. You start noticing information leaking before operations, a favor that does not make sense, a conversation that ends too fast when you walk into the room, a silence that has been purchased. First they test you small, a suggestion to look the other way, a request to slow down a check, a quiet word that trouble is not worth making. Then comes the number. Enough money to make the math feel different. Enough to make your principles feel like a luxury item you maybe cannot afford. You refuse, and that refusal marks you. To some people, you stop being a crewmate. You become an obstacle. And that is the moment when the grand adventure stops being about treasure and starts being about survival inside the machinery that was supposed to protect the sea. Level 6, the path. Now you make the harder choice. You decide to push through, to go deeper, to find the crew that operates at the level where the stakes are actually real. Your life changes completely. Harder training, tighter routine, less conversation, less time, less everything that is comfortable. You start living at a pace that almost no one can hold. There are stages of mud. There is exhaustion that is philosophical in its depth. There are days your body does not respond, and days your mind weighs more than the ship. You learn that wanting something helps, but that control is what carries you to the end. After everything, you make it. You get in. Level 7, the machine. Now you are seasoned and you are inside the real operation. Your weapon changed, your posture changed, your eyes changed. You go into action with the weight of the crew on your chest, and the knowledge that a single mistake can cost someone on your left or your right everything they have. You enter islands that remind you of where you started. Same narrow alleys, same kid being pulled toward the wrong thing too early, same logic eating the same generation twice. You are part of a major operation, and you take down a name that has been behind 100 different disasters. For a few hours it feels like victory. For a few days the island changes its tone. Then someone else steps into the vacancy. There is no shortage of people. There is no shortage of weapons. There is no shortage of whoever wants the post. This is where you understand it fully. You are not fighting a person. You are fighting a system. You remove one piece and 3 more are already carved and waiting. The loop does not care how strong you are. It is patient in a way that people cannot be. It was here before you arrived, and it plans to be here after. This is where the Grand Line reveals its real nature. Not a place, a condition. Level 8, the price. Now years have passed. Time does not announce itself on a ship. It arrives in the faces of the people around you, in the weight behind familiar eyes, in the speed at which the young crew members move compared to how fast you used to move. The world has learned who you are, what you refuse, what you will not bend on. Your routine changes the same day the right people find out. You change your course without announcing it. You stop broadcasting your position. You notice the ship that passed twice. You notice the quiet that arrives wrong. Your most vulnerable point is not your body. It is the people you love. And then the blow lands. Not in battle, not in the way the stories prepare you for. It comes quietly, in an absence. Someone is gone and the sea gives no explanation, no farewell, no edge to hold on to. Just the open water where they used to be. From that point, the mission continues. But it carries a different weight. You're not only doing what you believe is right anymore. You are doing it because they cannot. Level 9, the command. Now you are one of the people who shapes what happens next. The kid from the dock made it to a place that matters. You are looked at, followed, consulted. The decisions that land on the street start with words spoken in rooms where you now sit. But at this level, the sea changes shape again. It is not only the enemy outside the ship, it is the pressure from every direction at once. Political weight, institutional agenda, interests that arrived dressed as principles, decisions made above your head that explode at the level where your crew is standing. The wear is visible. You sleep like someone who stopped trusting sleep. You eat like someone fueling a machine rather than living a life. You wake tired, and the tiredness has a history. You change routes without explaining why. You distrust information that arrives too clean. You distrust silence almost as much as noise. The command gives you reach. The reach gives you responsibility. The responsibility does not end. Level 10. The cycle. Now you are old in the way that has nothing to do with age. You are old in hours, in losses, in the specific weight of knowing how many times you have been here before, and how many times the loop has restarted without asking your permission. You have become something to people, a symbol to some, a target to others. You have buried the version of yourself that thought one good operation could change the structure underneath. And then on a day that is heavy like all the others, you stop, just for a moment. You stand at the railing and you look at the dock below, and there is a child looking up at you. Still, wide eyes. The exact expression that lives in a memory you have carried for decades. Fear and fascination, and something that might still be hope. In that moment you understand again what you have been trying to beat your whole life. No single victory changes the beginning. No crew, no matter how strong, dismantles the current that pulls children toward the wrong horizon before they are old enough to choose. While the origin keeps pushing the same kids toward the same fate, the cycle finds its way back. It is patient. It has been doing this longer than any of us. You look at the child, and for a second you are back on that dock with nothing but a ball at your feet and a grin aimed at you from a straw hat that had no business being that confident. The sea is still enormous. The question is still open. The only difference is that now, you are the one with the grin. Which level are you on?